As a family who goes camping all summer long, about a year ago we thought it'd be kind of cool to start camping in the winter. We don't get super cold where we are currently. We used to live where it was cold, so we only had cold weather sleeping bags. So we thought it'd be fun to start camping more in the winter. So as we were looking around, we learned about hot tents and we thought that'd be a lot of fun. It's just kind of a different experience. We could have our tent and we could put a stove inside of it that would keep the inside of the tent warm as we're camping. As someone who did grow up in the north, we've kind of usually see them around hunting cabins or hunting tents, and so we thought that'd be a lot of fun, and the kids have really enjoyed it. First thing we needed to get was a tent, and we found the OneTigrus Rock Fortress Hot Tent. It says it holds 4 to 6 people. We easily fit 4 people in here. It's 2 adults and 2 kids. 6 adults would be kind of tight. Anybody who's been tenting, it's never holds as many as they really say it is, or if they do, you're really tight. With 2 adults and 2 kids, we have plenty of room in here, and we all have cots to keep us off the ground. So one of the part of the tent is that there's no floor to it, and there is a stove jack in the top to put a stove in to heat the tent. So one of the first things we had to get was a stove, and we got a Winnerwell Nomad View medium stove, which has worked really well for this size tent. Sometimes I wish it was maybe a little bit bigger, but that would have cost more. And for something we didn't know how much we would actually use, it has been a really fun investment. The kids really enjoy it. It has a glass window on the side. It does produce a lot of light if you have a good fire burning inside of it. I think it's pretty cool, and the kids think it's pretty cool. It does get really hot, so we just make sure that the cots are not right next to the fire, but it produces a good amount of heat. We did pick up a 3-walled pipe that goes through the silicone barrier through where the stove pipe goes through the tent, so it doesn't burn the tent, and we do use that because the pipe can get red hot. If you take a picture with the camera, it looks more red than it really is, especially at night, but it definitely will get hot. It will work better if you have a nice flame going, we've learned. So if you keep the fire going all night with maybe a couple pieces of wood and it's really burning, it'll keep the tent really warm, easily 80 degrees. But if we have one log that just burns in there slowly, it won't be as warm, but it will last a little bit longer. And it does have dampers that you can open and close on the stove and on the pipe going out. The first accessory we bought was this hot water heater. It's kind of cool. It just goes around the pipe. You can fill it up with water and it'll get boiling pretty quick. It's all made out of stainless steel, and then the water will come out nice and hot, and it just fits right here around the pipe. Another thing we picked up was this heat-powered fan. This is pretty cool. It only blows heat about maybe 2 or 3 feet, but inside of a tent this small, that's really all you need. You can really tell if it's pointing at you, and it'll warm you up probably 10 degrees. They said the 4 blades blew more wind than the 2 blades, so we got a 4-blade one. It was more just kind of cool to see how it would work when we got it. I wasn't really sure if it would work, but it definitely works for a small tent like this. If you have a big tent, you'd probably need a couple of them, and I don't know if you would even notice it more than 3 or 4 feet away. We thought about picking up another one because one side of the tent will be warmer if you're using it than the other side, and it's pretty cool. It just sits right on top of the stove, and I'm not exactly sure how it works. There are some wires in there, but the heat probably produces some sort of electricity in there, and it doesn't take long. It doesn't take much heat to get it going, but it's kind of cool. It's like a little science to teach the kids too when we learn how it works. Because there's no floor, and we do most of our tenting when there's no snow, because we don't have a lot of snow where we are, we picked up a floor mat, and we got a Dry Mate tent carpet mat that I just found on Amazon. Everything I have, I'll just link it in the description. And it's kind of cool. One side is like a carpet, kind of like a carpet it's windy. It's a pretty cool carpet. It's kind of like the carpet you would find in the trunk of a car. It's very small, very tight woven, and on the back it has a rubber backing. That kind of keeps water from coming in the bottom. It was nice when it was cold to have something on the floor that's softer than just the ground. And it gets dirty, and that's just part of it. We're not too worried about that. And I did pick up the fire protector that goes under the stove, and I put it over the carpet to keep the carpet safe. It doesn't get too hot under there because the fire is kind of on a grate inside the stove and it goes up. But I just wanted to be safe that it wouldn't burn anything. I have melted a corner of it, I noticed. Not a big deal, so it didn't burn, but it did melt when something must have got on it. Also, so that we would not be on the floor, we picked up 4 cots. 2 of the cots are Helinox light for my wife and I. They pack up really small and they pack up really light. Wasn't a big deal for us to get small and light because our hot tent camping so far has just been out of a car, and we don't have to walk too far. We're not using the kayaks yet, taking it anywhere too adventurous, which hopefully we will. They fit really well. They're a little bit lower off the ground. I'm not sure if you get as much heat because you're kind of lower than a lot of the heat inside of the tent. So the kids, we went on Amazon and we found kids cots, and they've worked really well. We bought 2 of them, so we have a long version and a small version, but that keeps them off the ground, and they're a little bit higher up, so I think it keeps them a little bit warm. But those have worked really well. They came with like a fitted sheet to go on top, so that's pretty easy to clean. The next thing we have is I have a sleeping bag. It's to like 15 degrees, and when it's this warm inside the tent, honestly, I haven't really used it. I kind of just keep it all the way open because we're not where it's terribly cold. One night when it got to about 12 degrees, it was chilly in the morning, and I just put a blanket on top of it, and that's usually all I have. And then my wife has her sleeping bag. I think it's about 15 degrees. It's in a Eureka. We'll also link it all in the description. A female sleeping bag supposedly is a little bit more padding on the bottom to keep them a little bit warmer. And then she has a very cool, nice warm blanket from Pendleton that's nice and thick that we got as a Christmas gift a few years ago. So she uses this on top of her blanket and she's been warm. We can bring extra stuff when we're just car camping, so it's not a big deal. And the older kid has a sleeping bag that goes to about 20 or 15 degrees, and it has an extension so that he can get longer or shorter as he grows into it. And then the younger kid just has a shark sleeping bag because apparently he doesn't get cold and he only wants to use his shark sleeping bag. Keep it warm enough that it's not a big deal. I just make them wear a sweatshirt and sweatpants when they go to sleep. This chair, it's a Sportneer. It feels like a cheap version of the more expensive cab chairs, but because we use chairs all the time, from summer camping to winter camp or baseball games, they do get broken. It would take 3 or 4 of these to catch up to the price of a bigger one. You can easily fit them into the tent, which is really nice. I also had to get new stakes. I got ones on Amazon that you screw into the ground. They're a lot stronger than the tent stakes that came with the tent. Those would just pull out of the ground, especially if it was windy. So I'm still using the ones that came with it as kind of the tie downs, and then the corners where I really tie it down, I'm using the orange stakes because they're a lot stronger. Having stakes that wouldn't come out of the ground were a lot nicer to have. One thing that we picked up that would be fun too is indoor-outdoor thermometer. So it has an indoor thermometer that has a backlight on it, and it'll tell us the temperature outside and inside. So we keep that in the tent and we put the little remote piece outside, then we can see how cold it is outside versus how warm it is inside. And that's just kind of fun to watch the temperature go down and try to keep the tent warm on the inside. So that's been a lot of fun to have. Another thing we bought just for safety and to make us feel better was a carbon monoxide detector. I'm not too worried about it because the whole bottom of the tent is open and the top of the tent is open. And if there were a lot of issues of people running out of oxygen in their tent, I'm sure we would hear about it. And if the fire is still burning, that means there is oxygen for the fire. The worst thing that happens is sometimes you open the stove to put wood in and you get some smoke into the tent. But when the fire is really going well, there's enough of a draft that even when you open it to put more wood in, you barely get any smoke in the tent. And so we haven't had any issues with that, but we just throw it in here just to be safe. Don't really have any real worries about that. It's not a fully enclosed cabin that we really have to worry about not getting enough oxygen into our tent. So even on the other side of the stove behind me, you can see there's lots of room. You can fit a chair. You could probably even fit a whole nother person back there if you had a 5th person you needed to put in this tent. But it's a huge tent and it works really well. So there's lots of room back here for all of your stuff, firewood, and anything extra you might need. I also got the bag that comes with the Winnerwell. It did not come with a carrying case, so I had to buy that extra. But I can stick some of the stuff in there, carry it, put it in the car, and store it in the garage when we're not using it. That way it's covered. It's all stainless steel, so I'm not too worried about it, but it does just kind of keep everything together because it's not something that we're using every weekend. We have set it up in our backyard at our house for the winter. Kids also like to use it to go kind of just play in. They bring their little tablets out here and we start a fire and hang out. So when we decided to start this a year ago, we didn't know what we were going to get. In the last year, we've picked up the Rock Fortress tent, the Winnerwell stove, the fan, tent carpet for the bottom, the fire protector, and the 4 cots. 2 of the cots are adults, bigger ones, and then 2 cots for the kids. And it's been a fun experience. So if you ever want to try something new and you like to camp, I think it's definitely worth trying. And the kids absolutely love telling people about it. So it's been wonderful. Have a great day.